Welcome into the Atlanta Falcons Fan Show for Fan Media. It's your boy Bryce Lewis back again talking more Falcons, and we have a special guest with us, Miles Garrett, reporter and sports anchor. Welcome into the show, sir. How are you today?
What's going on, Bryce? I'm doing pretty good. Good to join you on a Saturday.
Yes, sir. Nice. It's nice today out here in Georgia. You know what I'm saying? So that's always good and everything.
Nice and hot up in here in Indiana for once. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I knew they said something. It doesn't get too hot like it can down here, but it can it can get pretty nice weather. But listen, man. So you already know why we're here. We got to get into it. Julio Jones, man. So what I want to ask is this. So obviously, there's so much that came out. Julio's rushed to trade. We know he wants to be traded. People were wondering, where did this happen? When did this start? Why is he wanting this? You know, we're hearing reports Matt Ryan doesn't have a deep ball anymore to him. And then you hear a report today that he wants a quarterback wherever he trades to be able to throw the deep ball. And it's just like, you know, this isn't what we usually hear from Julio, just requesting, wanting all these things. And it's kind of, I think, throwing a lot of Falcon fans just like, this isn't the Julio we've known.
Yeah.
So I just want to get your thoughts on the situation. What do you think of it? Obviously, we're on Julio Jones watch because we don't know when he could be traded. He could be traded at any time. And if you have a prediction for a team you think he might be traded to, you can give that as well.
Yeah, Bryce, I mean, you're right. It's a situation that is it's seemingly out of character for Julio Jones. He's been, you know, sort of the anti-diva receiver during his time in Atlanta, sort of an anomaly for the typical receivers that you're seeing. But yeah, as far as all the reports, there seem to be so many different ones coming out, whether, as you said, that he's unhappy with Matt Ryan, that he's unhappy with the front office, he wants to play for a winner, yada, yada, yada. The one that I feel like I'm sort of falling into is the report that I saw that he got a little disgruntled when he saw that Terry Fontenot was fielding calls about Julio. I believe that was before the draft, like maybe a month or two before.
I think so.
That seemed like a report that I could, I guess, maybe understand. It seemed more realistic in my eyes. I mean, again, you can throw the deep ball angle out there, but Matt Ryan and Julio Jones have statistically been right there with Jerry Rice and Montana as the best duo in NFL history. So for me, it's a little hard to kind of contemplate that. Again, I mean, if he wants to play for a contender, I get that. Maybe the Falcons aren't there quite yet. But when you start to see teams like the Titans as being up there as you know, a team that he wants to go to, that gives me pause a little bit because it immediately makes me think of, you know, it's like thinking of the Shanahan situation. I mean, the Falcons took their Kyle Shanahan from the Tennessee Titans. So Arthur Smith was their coordinator. He was the one that put that offense together. You know, it appears that things are on the come up for this Atlanta offense. You know, add Kyle Pitts to this mix. But the biggest issue that I seem to have with this is the contract extension that Julio signed in 2019. I mean, we all remember that was sort of the beginning of this, like, whoa, this is a little out of character for Julio Jones, sort of causing a ruckus right now with contract negotiations, because at the time his contract wasn't up at that point. You know, you can rattle Thomas Dimitroff all you want with some of these contract offers in the past, you know, Devontae Freeman, all those other guys. But that kind of put the Falcons in this cap hell situation that we're seeing right now. And should Julio Jones leave, he's not going to play a single down of that extension, which is kind of bothersome to see offering that kind of money and to not play a single down of it. So as far as the situation goes, I'm more on the camp that he heard that he was being fielded, I suppose, when it comes to that. Terry Fontenot was looking at calls and maybe that disgruntled him a little bit. But yeah, as far as the team that I think he's going to go to, it seems like every single team in the NFL has been linked to him at this point. I'm not going to act like I know which team he's going to go to. You know, we've seen the Patriots, we've seen the Titans. I mean, the other day we saw, the Ravens are reportedly interested. Like, of course they're reportedly interested. Every single team that needs a receiver is. So, yeah, I think it's impossible to predict right now. As for a team that I'd like to see him go to, I mean, I'm personally a fan of the Chargers and the Bills camp, because, you know, two AFC teams the Falcons aren't going to play too often. And, you know, the young, exciting quarterbacks they've got, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, guys who I guess can throw the deep ball if Julio Jones wants it so bad. But yeah, that's where I stand on that situation.
Yeah, that's completely understandable. And I think this slides into my next question about Matt. Obviously, hearing that Julio even said anything regarding Matt as partly one of the reasons why he wants to leave, I think I'm sure you seen Falcons fan base, how torn they are on Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
And just now hearing that from a guy that the city loved, it makes people even maybe feel like who are on the side of camp, the Matt Ryan's the problem. Like, oh, see, even Julio has an issue with him. And so it's almost a question of now, are the Falcons making the right decision, sticking with Matt? You know, and listen, I think this offense can still be great without Julio. I think a lot of people may have overreacted. Like Calvin Ridley had a number one receiver like year last year. Russell Gage has a chance to continue on what he did last year. And we have some young receivers that we may feel like can play that third spot with Kyle Pitts. But what do you think now about this situation? Does it change how you view Matt Ryan at all? Do you feel like, listen, that's Julio, that's him, he can do what he wants. I think Matt's fine. I think he'll still be well. Like, what are you thinking about that when it comes to Matt Ryan?
Sure. Well, I mean, any of my Twitter followers will be able to know this when I say it. I've been a Matt Ryan supporter forever. I think Matt Ryan, I'm of the camp that Matt Ryan has never really been the issue for this team. He's never had a defense that has been somewhat competent ever in his entire career. He's very rarely has a run game. And when he does have a run game, he usually takes it pretty far in the playoffs. But as you said, you know, without this team can function without Julio Jones. We've seen it done before. And, you know, I think that's part of the reason why they drafted a Kyle Pitts. He's sort of that generational talent replacement that Julio Jones was when they drafted him in 2011, that generational type talent. As far as will he keep working, I think the Falcons made the correct move in not drafting a quarterback this year because Matt's 36. This isn't, you know, 1990 anymore. You know, we don't have quarterbacks, you know, once they pass 35, it's like game over for these guys, you know. I mean, I'm not by any means comparing Matt Ryan to Tom Brady, but Tom Brady's 43 and still playing at an elite level. Matt's 36. He's still got a couple good years in him. And again, they hired Arthur Smith with the mentality of Matt Ryan's the quarterback. If Arthur Smith can make Ryan Tannehill a top 5 quarterback in this league, what can he do to Matt Ryan? A guy who's already won the MVP and has weapons. I mean, Tennessee had A.J. Brown, you know, you had Jonnu Smith, you have Derrick Henry, of course, but I'd argue that the Falcons have way more weapons than that. I mean, you got Calvin Ridley, you got Kyle Pitts, you got all these guys on offense, Matt Ryan, a former MVP quarterback. So what Julio said, again, we don't even know if this is confirmed that, you know, Julio has this issue with Matt Ryan's deep ball, whatever that might be. And again, that's a knack that Matt's may have had throughout his career is he doesn't have that huge arm. You know, I think his game is more of that game manager. You know, he'll rack up a ton of yards. He'll throw for touchdowns and he'll throw for yards, but Matt's never really had that cannon of an arm his entire career, really, even when he was younger. But yeah, this whatever Julio is supposedly saying, if this is about Matt Ryan's arm strength, I'm not buying it, and I don't think Arthur Smith's offense is really designed for that over-the-top offense anyway. And I think he can make it work regardless. Yeah,
definitely. I think, you know, I'm almost on the side of Matt Ryan supporting because I just feel like, you know, if there's one thing the Falcons have been able to do the last few years, they've been able to pass the ball.
Yeah.
That's you know,
one thing that's been working for this team.
Exactly. And I know people want to say, oh, it's empty. Like, listen, when you have a defense like the Falcons have had, I mean, you kind of have to do that. I mean, it's not like
more the choice.
So if the fact that he can do that should show you something, because there's certain quarterbacks who are in that situation that can't. So, but I guess that goes into my next question now. Calvin Ridley looks like he'll be new wide receiver 1. I can make an argument if we kept Julio, especially with the salary cap situation, we might have had to let go of Ridley next year, obviously coming up in his contract year, just because he's going to probably demand number 1 receiver money especially if he continues to play at this level. But when the Julio news dropped, some people weren't, I guess, ecstatic about Calvin Ridley being number 1. And I was kind of confused by that. I was just like, it's not like he's incapable. He had 1,400 yards last year. I don't know if it's injuries, but Julio gets hurt. So what do you think about Calvin Ridley sliding into that number 1? Do you think he'll still have that same success he's had? And then how do you also think about Russell Gage sliding into that number 2? Are you comfortable with that? Do you think there'll be competition there, and et cetera?
No, I think Calvin Ridley absolutely has what it takes to fill in that number 1 receiver role. I mean, you saw it last year in a dirt cutter offense, what he was able to do. You know, I think I was able to watch actually a good bit of film this offseason and see what the Falcons were doing on offense and see the routes these receivers are running, what Gage was doing, what Ridley and Julio were doing. And the thing that stuck out to me the most is just how long the routes in Dirk Cutter's offense took to develop. They took forever. And if you look at Ridley, he's still making these plays work. You know, these plays that are obviously designed to get open at some point, but it just takes forever for that opening to hit. And Ridley was still making it work. You throw in Arthur Smith to this angle, I think he's that offensive I'm not going to call him a mastermind, but someone who's very, very capable of leading an offense, you know, of that Sean McVay bred, Kyle Shanahan bred offensive-minded head coaches that mind you, Matt Ryan has never had. It's always been a defensive-minded head coach, though we've never had a defense. But regardless, it's something that I think he can easily step into and create mismatches, because Ridley, his game isn't the over-the-top 6'5" jump ball receiver that Julio is. Ridley's game is that of the Antonio Brown, the route runner, the one that can break off and make you miss and get wide open. That's Ridley's game. And you have different mismatches. Russell Gage, I think, can sort of become that deep threat. He's got the speed, and you can use him in different scenarios. I mean, I'm not going to use him as quarterback 2 every single day, but he's got the capability to be that type of dynamic playmaker. And now you add 2, and I mean, we all talk about Kyle Pitts, rightfully so, generational type talent, but we're all forgetting about Hayden Hurst, who's pretty good himself. I mean, he had a little bit of a slow start this past year, but he really caught on at the end. He's also in a contract year. He's going to be playing for something. So you see all these different types of weapons. It's like Julio Jones leaves, the world is ending for this team. It's not. I mean, you got Mike Davis in the backfield too, a guy that honestly reminds me a lot of Michael Turner when they signed him back in the day. You know, a guy who's backing up a superstar in Christian McCaffrey, Turner with LaDainian Tomlinson all those years ago. So I think it's something that Arthur Smith will still make work and will be able to change and honestly make a game plan that is more suited to these players. Dirk Cutter was a little bit old school with how he was designing some of these play calls. And, you know, the game has advanced so much, and I think we'll see that with Arthur Smith. Yeah,
definitely. And, you know, I'm excited to see what it looks like, you know, just to see the game plan, the offense. People say he runs a similar offense to what Kyle Shanahan ran. We know what happened when Matt was in that offense. So it's definitely very exciting to see what happens with this team coming together. Once we get past the Julio stuff, we see what happens with that. I think we'll see where this team is. And I think they're still confident. They may be able to be competitive this year also as well. So we'll have to see if the Falcons can really maybe still be able to create some waves even without Julio Jones on the roster.
And you mentioned that competitive aspect thing. I mean, we all know how bad the Falcons were last year, but they were in so many of those games. Like it was, I mean, the Lions should have been a win. Cowboys should have been a win. Bears should have been a win. Those are 3 games just off the top of my head I could name that should have been wins if it wasn't for one last minute bogus blown lead like they always seem to have. You know, that's just 3 right there. So, I mean, you put in a good coaching staff there. Besides that, this team really, I mean, I saw so many ESPN announcers even say it last year. This has got to be the best 1-loss or 1-win team at that point in the season when they were like 1-6, 1-7 that they've ever seen. Because you have so much talent and they're 1-7. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So, and hopefully with this new regime, we don't have to worry about blown leads. Now, it's an NFL. It happens all the time. So I don't want one to happen and then we're right back where we are. Like, let's calm down, guys. Let's calm down. But definitely appreciate your insight, Miles. And thank you for coming on to the show today. Definitely appreciate it, man. And that was your Atlanta Falcons Fan Show. I'll see you guys later. Oh yeah, by the way, Miles, shout out where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Miles Garrett TV. I'll be posting a lot more Falcons content here in the next month. So if you want some Falcons stuff, give me a follow.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. I'll see y'all later.
To host a fan show or appear as a fan on a fan show, create a profile in Fan Media Network. Then look for the news page in our website and fan show resources page. Help yourself. We give show hosts a show graphic and team colors, a simple short show format, tips on pre- and post-production, ideas to get fans and guests on your show, Apple News distribution and show sponsorship sales and services to help featured show hosts earn money. Show hosts use our iPhone app to publish their shows. Our website supports Android users.